bum. Ba ba doo ba bum ba dee ba dee ba bum ba dee me me ba bum. Do 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 do. We live in what ought to be the most enlightened of times, but sadly is among the most benighted of times, in part because of universal literacy and universal respect for people's literary output, most of which is donkey shit. Personally, the people that I've always found the most interesting are people who are doing differently than the vast majority. I am ideally interested in people who are doing something different that is good and smart and interesting and wise and surprising, but it takes a while before you find those people, and the only place to look is among people whom you can be pretty sure aren't simply just chasing the same wooden carrot as all the other human dogs. I don't mean dogs in a negative sense, I mean in an idiotic sense. We care about them. We care about human beings, babies who are idiots, people who are elderly with Alzheimer's who are idiots. It's not a matter of intelligence that earns an individual our respect, concern, and care. All people deserve that, but not necessarily for all of the, wind that exhales their mouths. In any case, people who are prone to not go with the marching drum of the society that they live in tend to gravitate towards believing in the specific things that are apostate worthy in that society. In our society, a lot of it has to do with race. So on this blog run by a guy named Steve Saylor, there's a lot of racial talk and a lot of people in the comments who tend not to have a very positive sentiment about black people. I happen to have an somewhat very different perspective. As a matter of fact, I would say that probably most of the people who are currently following this very page, this video, are black people, and they are neighbors of mine. But I really don't want to get afield in the matter of race or in the matter of myself, because this comment that I left in response to a blog post that seems to claim that ugly people are inherently more evil, I decided to have my stab at the racial matter, in agreeing with the very obviousness that there are, of course, genetic differences that are deeper than skin deep between different groups of people, right? On average, that's very, very obvious. But that phrasing things in moral terms, rather than looking honestly at the options afforded to people, is not only wrong, but downright stupid. Anyway, here's that comment. Forgive my pointing out the obvious, but isn't it more likely that people with disturbing visages break the rules of societal propriety in order to survive, despite the unfortunateness of their faces, rather than that their atrocious outward appearance simply runs in tandem with an innately soiled soul? Of course, those denied opportunities by the rules will break the rules. Not sure how much you all know about nuns around the world, but I happen to have gotten to know quite a few. And pound for pound, girls who enter the convent tend to be less buxomly endowed than their non-cloister-bound classmates. Now, with the noblesse oblige of the aristocratically tall, Steve occasionally offers selfless sounds on behalf of the short. We all know the studies demonstrating that for every extra inch of height in a man, he is more likely to earn X amount of additional income per year. You don't need to be a deep thinker of any kind to assume that the fellow who robbed the bank and raped the elderly teller is more likely to be a fellow of unfortunate countenance and shifty manner, rather than the man of solid mien and suave sound. I've often pointed out here that good and bad are childish concepts employed by rogues to set fools a-dancin'. Obviously, when the law virtually guarantees that some demographic of people are fated to lose at life, the courageous among that demographic will break the law in order to succeed. Hopefully all of us here know enough about the wide variety of, frankly, astonishing to us laws and mores accepted beyond question in various societies over the course of recorded history to not take too seriously the proposition that our laws and mores just so happen to be the very first in human history that are perfectly in tune with nature and the will of God. An example. In fact, for our day country, the United States, and blog host, the example. Blacks. I think most of us agree that members of the African American male population in the United States are, on average, less genetically capable of achieving wealth, comfort, options, and a position of respect in the current system than are, say, European Americans. And that this would hold true even if the concept of race were zapped out of human recognition, or if overnight African Americans all lost their excess melatonin and black sense. It seems most likely that on average, African Americans have less facility with words, long trains of thought, and grit than do people who descend from ancestors who lived in difficult circumstances and survived because they had an abundance of such capacities. The rules of the societies that their ancestors survived in are better suited to those survivors' descendants. That's simple survival of the fittest and who descends from whom. But with the worldwide discovery of cargo, this is referencing the term as it's described by Jared Diamond. Essentially, he's referring to he was down in New Guinea, and down there the people had been living more or less in the Stone Age until approximately World War II, when it was used as a base of operations, and they see planes landing with all these amazing stuff. And they were told that that's cargo. That's their word for stuff. Before that, they didn't really have a concept of stuff. You know, you're hungry, so you go out and kill an animal. There's no reason to go out and kill 19 animals. What are you going to do with them? They're gonna rot. So for them, the word is cargo. And now that we all know that massive amounts of cargo can be obtained, and we don't have the governor, we don't have the safety switch on our head that says there's no point to having all this extra cargo, the whole world knows about cargo and is chasing it. So, with the worldwide discovery of cargo, and the fact that the Paleolithic psyche that we have inherited didn't foresee the possibility of having an unnecessary amount of cargo, the pre-Neolithic world is gone. And needless to say, as with all things and creatures, those who are least evolved to succeed in an environment are a whole lot less likely to do so. One could argue that those less endowed with the necessary ingredients for success in the modern world simply oughtn't be as avaricious as those who have the innate capacity to scoop up lots of cargo. But in addition to it being an underhanded trick to hand-wave away the fundamentals of human nature with moral admonitions, this critique also skips over the fact that social hierarchies are a zero-sum game, such that those at the bottom of the period lose out on a whole lot more than excess, unnecessary cargo. So whether you want to fix some situation or you simply enjoy marveling in the pleasure of understanding why things are the way they are, accepting the simple cause and effect realities of life in our society is an efficient first step.